This conference will now be recorded.
Just so everyone knows, we are recording, just so Jenna can post to the website. I think I got 7:04. We're sitting at 62. We'll maybe give it one more minute just because I know people are still popping in. So, all right. It's like we've narrowed out. So, first off, I just want to welcome everybody and thank you all for taking part in this. This is something that Jess and I are envisioning ourselves doing very often, looking at holding monthly meetings and having working with Jenna to do updates on the websites, just to keep everybody posted. I know it's certainly been a challenging time for everybody with the COVID and since March when we've really kind of left the curling ice basically. Um, so it's kind of nice to be able to talk to everybody at least. We've Jess and I basically have been spending the since Jess joined us last 2 months for her and last 3 or 4 months with myself and the AAC and Jeff and everybody that's been working with us and trying to make sure that we have a plan moving forward for the next season. Um, I think all of you know Jess, but just a quick introduction that Jess comes with a lengthy career as a player and Olympian and as a builder up in Alaska and building and coaching and working with juniors. So we're really excited to have her aboard, working as the director of the women's program and the director of the junior program. So it's was certainly a relief for me when she came in because was able to get some help. And I know we've gone through a lot of changes in the last year, but I'm confident that we have things in place and we have things moving forward in a positive direction for USA Curling. And under Jeff's leadership, he's been great. He's been a great addition and has been working hard for the whole entire membership to do his best through this challenging time. He basically came on in February, and we shut curling down in March. So it's been a learning curve for him, to say the least. But kind of updates on the USOP PC side. We've been working daily with them, if not weekly for sure, on plans on what the next season could look like. Um, we're in a good spot right now because we're able to kind of track to see how things are going based off of the professional season. As we saw, PGA Tour started, and there was a couple of other major league seasons start, and COVID's already hit them. So it's we're going to be able to learn a lot here in the next month. We've, in terms of the Olympic trials, because I know that's kind of what everyone's been asking, and what the next season will be in terms of that. We're moving forward with Plan A, which hasn't quite been um, approved actually, and we actually as a board or as the national team, myself as the interim high performance director, Rich as the interim CEO, the AAC, and Courtney all approved the Olympic trials procedures back in October, and had been going back and forth with the USOPC on some things, and then it kind of got stuck on the back burner because of all the stuff that was going on, and cancellations with the cancellation of the Olympics. So they came back with us. We finally sent something through that's it hasn't it's going to get approved, and it'll be Plan A, which I think many of you heard, but it would be next season the top three teams in the top 50 will advance to the Olympic trials. So that would be year to date order of merit. That's provided we have a season and everything starts without a hitch in September. So top three in the top 50 will get direct berths, and then from there it will be we'll have a pre-trials which will get the fourth team. So there'll be four teams per gender in the Olympic trials, which will be held in November of 2021. To qualify for the pre-trials, that will be the top 100. So anybody inside of the top 100 that hasn't already qualified in order of merit will earn themselves a berth in the pre-trials. The pre-trials will be held in early October of 2021. The deadline as it sits for those order of merit spots would be May 15th of 2021. So you'd be able to earn points up until May 15th of 2021. That is a season for men's and women's that it has little effect from COVID and little cancellations, and we're able to at least get a season together. And like I said, that is on their desk. We've been told, Jess and I have been. Our last meeting was last week, and we've got another one tomorrow or a Wednesday with them. But we've been told that procedure has been approved. Now we've also got a multiple other things where I'll let Jess touch on those, but multiple other options that we're trying to put together, provided for at the worst case scenarios if we don't have a season at all. Jess?
Right, and so like Phil kind of alluded to, we've been working closely with USOPC right now. Pretty regularly, we're meeting with the doctors tomorrow, and we just want you guys to know that the health and safety of our athletes and our ice crews and families and everybody who's involved with planning and organizing is our top priority. And so with that being said, we recognize that Plan A has a lot of travel involved with it, traveling nationally and internationally is a factor, and obviously we're trying to limit our travel at this time and kind of limit the spread of COVID. And so that puts us in an interesting situation, and it puts a lot of options out there on the table, and kind of is a challenge to put together a season that we are confident in and releasing a schedule that we are confident in. And we are going through backup plans after backup plans, and we hope to have more of a solid backup plan for you by the end of July. But as of right now, we're kind of running with Plan A and then exploring other options that wouldn't require as much travel, whether it be a couple more pre-trials or utilizing some of the national championships and system that way, as far as qualifying for the trials, and just exploring what that might look like at this point.
And just getting comfortable with uncertainty basically is what we're having to do right now, and it's a hard spot. But as we know, we're dealing with it in everyday life, from whether you can leave the house or whether you can whether you're working from home, or no matter what you're doing, it's just part of our reality right now. And Jess had mentioned it, but there's no doubt we're putting the athlete's safety first, and we certainly don't want to be putting athletes out in harm's way to have to try to chase an Olympic trials spot. So that's the last thing we want to do. And as she mentioned, that we are meeting with the doctors tomorrow. So we're hoping to get some answers along testings and the USOPC's return to play procedures, which have come out. And we're looking to both Dr. Cole from who's our national team doc from Twin Cities Orthopedic, and Dr. Finoff from the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee is going to be on, and hopefully give us some answers to some of those questions Jess and I have, as to how hard is it to get tests? Are we going to be able to test athletes before events? In particular, if we're going to host a national championship in late January, how does that look, and what does that look like? If we host a pre-trials event, what does that look like? And and the testing around that and partnering. Obviously we partner with the Twin Cities Orthopedics, but there are other places that we can utilize through the Olympic family. I think we've covered everything on the Olympic trials spots. I can also let you know that I've been in contact with all of our event chairs from the U.S. that were last year. If any of you are interested in hosting on a U.S. tour, because we are trying to prepare for if we can't travel to Canada, as we know the restrictions there right now. If we can't travel to Canada, do we have enough competitions to ensure that you guys can play within the states? I've put together a schedule which Jenna will post out on Friday under the Olympic under the COVID and resources page on the USCA website, and we'll put that along with our weekly communication that Jess and I send out about this, because I know everybody's going to be trying to put together a season schedule and plan for the what ifs. So I do have a list of all the US events, and we've got a pretty good list of them, especially with that addition of the California event, if that's able to go, if we're, they're planning on it, and, if we're able to travel safely. It'll start in with the, I think John Benton sent out an email about the first event in Blaine, and then California, and moving forward to some of the mixed doubles events, and Curl Masabi in Arizona, and we've got a wide variety of options at least this year, which is going to make, at least if we can't travel, it a lot easier. Anything else, Jess, that we can cover? Otherwise, we'd open it up to questions. I'm going to wait till 7:30 to start in case someone was going to sign on for the mixed doubles sides of the procedures, but we'd open it up to someone questions at this time, unless you had anything else, Jess.
I think you covered it pretty well, Phil. So I think if we want to open it up for questions, let's go ahead and do that.
Just make sure if you have any questions, you can unmute and fire away, and we'll try to help with anything we can.
Hey, Phil, can you hear me?
Is there going to be a facility protocol for all of the sites? So before the athletes arrive, will there be testing and submissions of symptoms prior to arrival? And then what's the facility of the host club's responsibility for all COVID, I guess, symptom checks and team checks?
Yeah, so I can take that from if it's an event that's ours, that's what we're going to be talking to the doctors about tomorrow. What the testing would look like and how we can ensure that that's done. Because the last thing that we want to do is have an event and have it spread, as we've seen in the baseball season, where people have come into training camp and all of a sudden it spread through some of the baseball facilities down there. So testing at our U.S. Curling events and nationals is likely going to be a priority, and we'll just going to follow the guidelines of the USOPC and the team docs that we get. And like I said, we'll hopefully the next call that we have will have more info. We're finally being able to get the docs free to be able to open that line of communication and identify what that will look like. But it is on the forefront for us, because if we can't test and we can't ensure safety, there's pretty much makes it pretty challenging to expect people to travel and to compete. Any other questions?
Yeah, this is Sean Franey. Just quick question on lodging. I know there's been a big shift in terms of where people are staying for events, whether it's Airbnb, hotel. Are you expecting it to kind of be a take care of yourself kind of thing when it comes to lodging and travel, like it has been historically? Or are we going to see more like, hey, blocks of rooms, this is where you're staying, no questions asked, kind of what are you thinking in terms of regulations?
Yeah, in terms of, I can say, in terms of, we have two different things going on, right? Like we have the World Curling Tour events that will be hosted by independent people and independent clubs, which we'll certainly work with them. Jess and I will, host a call with them, especially once we get more info for the doctors, and follow their recommendations. But as for the USCA events, for the USA Curling qualifiers and nationals, that certainly will be something that we'll have to be looking at, is keeping everyone confined to and that's what all the studies have shown, is keeping people confined to one area, keeping people together, keeping fans outside of the venue, less contact with outside people, especially if we're testing. We're going to have to ensure that we've got everybody, for lack of better words, quarantined or all in one spot while the championship is going on. But the problem we run into is when we have the World Curling Tour events. That's a bit more challenging, because those are run by either the World Curling Tour, the local curling zone, and and they could be in Canada, they could be in the U.S., and they could have different procedures.
I just had a quick question about the procedures. Like, when you're meeting with the doctors, are you guys planning on writing your own procedures, or will USA Curling must be following state procedures and US Olympic Committee procedures?
U.S. Olympic Committee procedures. We're binded by their procedures of what we have to follow.
Thank you.
And obviously their procedures plus whatever state we're in, and whatever, because each state has a different protocol, so we have to take that into play as well. Because just because the USOPC said something is okay, that doesn't. If we're in a state that's on lockdown, that doesn't mean, then we might have to follow what state and local guidances are.
Is there anything in place if somebody does test positive, or what if that player travels to an event with a teammate and the teammate test is negative, but the one is positive? Scenarios like that.
Yeah, that will be with that'll be. I'm very hopeful that the doctors will lay out what we're how we handle that. Dr. Cole has already been a great person for us to work with, and he has assured us that he's going to help us throughout the process. So I'm confident that he'll be there for us in every step of the way. Any other questions? And I know there's, as I said before, the uncertainty is a challenge, and I hope that we can continue to get you answers, and as soon as we do, we will continue to post them. And I think Jess and I set up another town hall that we want to host in hopes that we have updates from the doctors and from the USOPC. Jess, do you have that date?
I believe it's July 27th. So
yes, Monday, July 27th.
So we're going to host a town hall July 27th, and then our goal is to get weekly newsletters out to you, which will be posted on the website under the COVID blog that Jenna has going.
Yeah, and I think Dean has also said that he's got an emailing list. I don't know if Dean's on or not, but Jess and I have also been working closely with the AAC. We've had some meetings. We've had a number of meetings, but as of recent, we've committed to talking to them weekly, just to touch bases with them to help to get feedback in this process. And Dean is, as the US OPC Olympic AAC rep, has a list that he said he would make sure that the information that we have is distributed to them as well. It's everyone on his list, and as I said, Jenna will have it on the website, and we'll post it on social media as well, which has been a great help to be able to have that stuff out there and getting posted throughout social media and on the website.
One thing about just I know it's a mixed doubles somewhat question, which we're not at yet, but Dean confirmed that first mixed doubles event was canceled on the AAC meeting. And I'm just wondering if stuff like that will be on these weekly updates, because I've been hearing about that for a minute and just want to see what we can do to, get them coming out quicker.
Yeah, and I can speak on that one. Is that I think it was Hunter that was. I can speak on that, and that was because we never announced the event. The U.S. Open, which we were going to have, there was going to be a U.S. Open and mixed doubles event in August. We never announced it, so we never canceled it. But yes, those types of things will be exactly what will go out on the weekly communications, and anything that we have COVID related will go out on that. Schedule related, actually, it should be COVID schedule related. Any updates on anything that's new.
Any update on Mix 2020? Just curious.
Oh, yes. I believe, Jenny, are you still on?
I
Hate to
am.
throw a spot, but I
I
know
am
she
on.
has.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we got you.
Right now, we're basically getting a feel from the qualified teams in regards to if they want to participate or not. I've heard back from 4 teams. They have until, I think, next Tuesday to respond. So if any of you do have teams, whether or not I have updated email addresses, it's definitely a discussion for every team to have with each other. The message that it went out to teams are items, such as you guys have asked and Phil's addressed a little bit. You need to think of the possibility of arriving early for testing. Everybody staying at one hotel. There will be no spectators. Everything that, you guys really need to think about it. It'll really be, if it does happen in late August, which are the potential dates, there are things to consider more to if someone tests positive or testing protocols. We'll definitely keep everyone posted and hoping to look to make a decision closer to the end of this month.
Thanks, Jenny, and also just to also add on to what Jenny said, the WCF, I think probably if you hadn't seen it, has announced the dates for it in October, and they have announced that they're going to have it, but they have not. But I think they had said, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Jenny, that we shouldn't be booking travel or anything yet for it because they're still not 100% sure. Their plan is to have it, but they don't know at what point they'll make the final decision.
That's correct, Phil. And the member associations, so USA Curling, Canada, all of the countries need to submit registration by June 30th. And I want to believe that may contribute to some decision making. If they don't have many countries that are even willing to travel to Scotland in October, maybe we would know sooner than later, but I know we wouldn't find out if it was canceled before then.
Any other questions that anyone has?
Hey, Phil, this is Craig Brown. I think that with the likelihood of a minimized season, at least to some extent, even if things seem to go pretty well, we probably need to have that plan B or plan C or both kind of out there for people to see ahead of time. And I don't know if that was what you had kind of alluded to begin with, if you were just going to announce them once needed, or if you were going to get something kind of done and finalized and figure out what your scenario is or your protocol for switching from plan A to plan B or plan B to plan C, something along those lines.
Yeah, we actually have 2 calls this week, Craig. one with the USOPC on Wednesday, and one with the AAC. I think this the subgroup of the AAC at least this week, and then I think our thoughts were to get back with the entire group, the AAC, and start to finalize those. We have some questions that needed to get answered by the people we're working with at the USOPC to even see how the changes take place and what that looks like from their legal standpoint. So yes, that's exactly the plan. And as soon as we get that, it would be our plan to release what the options would be. So if it were to be Plan B and Plan C, because we're not going to just wait, or at least my hope and my plan wouldn't be, and I don't think it's Jess's or anyone else's, that we would wait until September 1st and say the season's canceled and this person's going to the World Championships. We obviously want it to be on the ice. We want the clarity among the plans, and so as soon as we get them improved and get that finalized, we'll get that out, which I'm hoping obviously by the end of July, we'd at least have it what Plan B would look like or what Plan C would look like, and hopefully sooner.
And then does the same go for the junior program?
Yes, the same will go for the junior program. So we are working on the backup plans for the World B trials right now, and I should have that out shortly, as well as kind of a new junior development program that we're working on that will probably be more webinar-based and virtual versus on ice, at least to start. So we're I should have more information on that here by the end of the month. But juniors are a little different because we're not working as much through the U.S. Olympic Committee for the planning of the schedule. So we can evaluate that, but that's more club-based and regional-based. The guidelines are going to be more based around what your state and regions are going to be doing. Obviously, we'll be helping guide that and what that looks like for everybody. But like I said, we'll have more information on that coming out shortly.
And I think I'm going to jump into the mixed doubles section just to give everybody an update on that, and then we'll open it up to questions again. So as you know, the mixed doubles trials procedures have been released. They've been released. I think they went out over a year ago through when Derek Brown and the AAC at that point, which was back in March, I think, of 2019. But so the mixed doubles procedures, we already have 3 teams that are qualified for our Olympic trials, and the Olympic trials field is 10 teams. It's scheduled right now for March of 2021. The procedures say there's 3 trials events that are to be hosted, tour events where the top U.S. team advances. Right now, that's been part of where we've been working with tour events. And as I think you heard someone ask earlier, at one point there was going to be 3 tour events: a U.S. Open of curling, of mixed doubles, which was going to be in August, and then the Denver event and the Madison event. And because it was going to be in August, it was never proposed and determined that we couldn't do that. So right now the plan is we only got 2 events. So we've got the Denver October 15th to the 18th, and that's the new change date. And then the Madtown mixed doubles, which will be October 30th to the 1st. Both of those clubs have agreed to host, provided that their local authorities allow them to, and they're in a spot where their club and their board and their governing bodies allow them to. And then the third event, since we don't have a third event that's been put out there, and we're worried about the August and early September travel dates. We have tentatively put forth a modification to the pre-trials, to the trials procedures, which would be to take the pre-trials weekend and make that the third event, which would be tentatively held in Boston. So that would give us an event in the West, an event in the East, an event in the Midwest for the threes. And then the pre-trials, which would be December 18th to the 20th. And then the pre-trials would be the 11th to the 14th, the weekend after the men's and women's nationals. Reason being because we're concerned that if there gets an event or two gets canceled, then we still have some backup dates and some backup options. Um, Again, this is all proposed, and this will be working within the next probably 2 weeks. We've got to have two more meetings with the USOPC on this too. So this will be another one of those things that we'll continue to monitor and to continue to give updates to dates and to events. And some of this, to be honest, is going to be answered with the doctors as well, because if we've got to be able to have testing, and because they're pretrial qualifying events, and we've got to be able to provide one specific hotel and one these various guidelines, whatever they may put forth to us, we've got to be able to then turn around and work with the event to assure that happens, and hopefully they can provide that. As I'm sure they'd want to have the same things. So there's just a lot of steps that need to go into place there to make this all work. But that's what our proposal is. We worked with the AAC on that one. Well, it was our Olympic Trials Procedures Committee and then the AAC on that. And that's where we're at right now. And now we're going to start to plan C basically, because that's plan B. And then if it gets to the point where we don't have a fall season, we'll have no option but to postpone the trials and have to move them into the fall of 2021. I'll open it up to questions. I think that I covered everything on the mixed doubles side. Covered a lot of it on the other portion of it, the COVID stuff. So I would open it up to any questions, even if we have questions still out there from the men's and women's. See, there's a couple questions in the chat room. Oh, I think they got answered. Thanks, Jenna. I think Jenna got them answered. Questions? Nothing?
I guess this kind of it affects mixed doubles differently than it affects the other games. But with things changing and depending on testing policies, and then as I think Eileen pointed out about what happens if someone gets tested positive at an event, what are you looking at from like alternates, fifth, sixth? Are you looking at maybe modifying the rules for a season or two, depending on how things play out, or will it hold fast? And like, what do you do in mixed doubles, for example?
Yeah, that's a challenge. Well, the hope would be that if it's to a point where we're going to end up having to be at that high risk of and we're having athletes testing positive, that we're not then no longer competing, because we certainly don't want the safety of the athletes to be at risk. And but that's certainly a good question. I think that we can put that on the radar and hopefully have an answer for you at the next town hall, because that is with mixed doubles, it's if we're following the WCF rules in our rule book, it states that there are no alternates or there's no subs allowed in mixed doubles. So at this point, the obvious answer is that there would be no one allowed, but it's certainly something that we can take a look at and see if that is an option. Obviously, it's a challenge when you're at an event, and if that were to happen, to find somebody even at that point would be a difficulty. But that's certainly something that we can put down and consider. And it's also again, it would be my hope if we're traveling and we're having athletes testing positive, that we wouldn't be traveling in the first place, or B, we would shut it down pretty quickly and have to postpone any events or any travel for any events.
Just speaking to that point, Phil, are you guys going to be making very clear about how many athletes test positive, and then you would have to like cancel future events, just in case there's a situation where one team's at an event in Canada and then a whole bunch of U.S. teams are at a U.S. event or another larger spiel in Canada? If that one team gets sick at their event, will that affect every team, or is there a certain threshold? Like, I know this isn't known now, but was there any
Excuse
thought
me,
on that?
can you say it one more time, Hunter?
Yeah, so you just spoke. So like, if only a few athletes get sick, like, is there a threshold for how many USA curling athletes need to get COVID for you to cancel future events?
That will be
Just in case, like, if one team gets affected.
Yeah, that'll be a great question for us to ask tomorrow to the doctors.
Yeah.
Like what is the threshold? And I don't, because we've had so few events of any sort. Obviously, this week, I don't know if you guys saw, but on the tour, Nick Watney had posted that he had tested positive during the tour event, and they obviously didn't cancel the PGA Tour event. So I think we're going to have to really pay attention to what other sports are doing. The recommendations from the US OPC, especially when it's a USA curling sanctioned event, and then rely on what the doctors are telling us. If there's an outbreak at an event, my hope would be that they would cancel it. But yes, and then we'd have to assess it at that time. So certainly a good question. We'll put that forth to the doctors tomorrow.
Mm, mm.
Phil, is the USCA going to have to, and maybe this is something that you'll find out in your meeting tomorrow as well, but is the USCA going to have to essentially apply, or any of these spiels apply for some sort of special insurance to be able to host something?
Yeah, possibly. That I wouldn't have the answer to that question at this time. But there certainly could be something like that, and obviously we'd probably have to take there again. I think it could come down to local, different area and different regions as well. So yes, another question for us to add to the list to be able to ask the doctors and probably even higher ups at the decision makers at the US OPC and further up the chain on that one, Craig.
Just a follow up to that one, Craig. What about if a team travels from a certain state to another state, but the state has sanctions against that state? So let's say a top 3 team can't travel to another state because there's an outbreak in their state.
Right, and I think that goes back to the point where we're going to have to assess when we want to start implementing Plan Bs and Cs and Ds if there's instances where states aren't open or you have to quarantine for a certain amount of time. Is that a point when that's putting our athletes at risk of traveling then and getting it? So when do we decide to not, or to change our plan and change the season so that people aren't at risk and not having to manage the 14-day quarantines when they're traveling?
And just to clarify too, as I think Jess mentioned it already, but one of the Plan B's, Plan C options that we're looking at is if we have to cancel the fall, because in a situation like that, if we can't have athletes traveling to various places and various events, it's going to be very challenging for us to have a fall season. So at that point, we'd have to look at canceling the fall season and implementing a different plan, whether it's hosting a national events or pre-trials events, and looking at different ways to qualify teams for the trials.
Hey, Phil, it's Alex Leiter. I think you sort of identified a difference between USA curling sanctioned events and World Curling Tour events from a policy perspective. If World Curling Tour events don't meet the same level of restrictions or safety guidelines, that other USA curling events do meet? As an organization, do we want athletes traveling to those lower restriction, lower safety events if we wouldn't allow them to happen as our own events? Does that question make sense, I guess?
Yes, to me. Go ahead, Jeff. I think you're going to say something.
Well, I think that makes sense. I think our goal for us as an organization is we don't want to require or put in your mind that you have to travel against your comfort level. So if you're traveling to an event because you want to get points for your Olympic dream, that's something that we are evaluating versus you just traveling to an event because you want to travel to that event and you're comfortable with that. So I guess that probably doesn't answer your question directly, but I think it's so personal for each person individually with how they're managing what is going on right now that we don't want to make you have to make that decision between your Olympic dream and your health. And so even if we're saying, okay, we're changing the Olympic trials process, the procedures and the points, that doesn't necessarily mean that we're saying don't travel or do travel. I think we're just making it more as an option for you and your team and to do what is most comfortable for you.
I guess the one clarifier I'll add there is by using tour points as a method to qualify for trials, they become somewhat sanctioned. Those events that safety level becomes sanctioned, even though they're not specifically qualifiers. Athletes do become somewhat required to travel to those events, just like they do the mixed doubles Olympic trial qualifier tour events.
Sure. And I think that's where, Alex, if it gets to that point where events aren't safe to go to, or they're not upheld to our restrictions, that's at the point we're going to have to alter the trials procedures and go to a plan B or a plan C, because if they can't be at a level that we feel that events aren't safe, they aren't being run safely based on what our doctor's opinions are, then we would have to implement our different plans, plan A or plan B or plan C, wherever we are on the spectrum there. We'd have to implement a different plan. But I agree. Right? I think that's what Jeff was trying to say as well, that we don't want people traveling and fearing for their health and safety just to try to chase points. And if it's not safe and events aren't safe, then at that point, that's when we make those changes. Well, hopefully prior to
that. That makes total sense. Thanks.
Anyone else? I think I can speak for both Jess and I that if anyone has any comments or any questions or any suggestions, questions like this, we recorded this, so we're going to be able to go back and have all this information. But more importantly, if there's things that you want answered, feel free to reach out to us. Send us an email, give us a call, either one. Because we know it's challenging times, and we know that this is a huge year in all of your Olympic dreams that are trying to chase down that berth in the Olympic trials and eventually the Olympics. So it's very hard, I know, and it's very hard to have a lot of unknowns, but safety is going to come first, and it is our priority. It's Jeff's priority for the organization, and everybody's priority. So we'll do what we can do to ensure that everybody can be safe and that we can have fair procedures for everybody to have an opportunity to represent the country. I think.
Quick question, actually.
Yeah.
Yes. Like, based on your experience in DC this year, given everything that they did at the time, testing wasn't available, but like what they did to try and keep things safe, with the conversations you're having with the doctors and the governing bodies, is there anything that's coming up in terms of what could be done better? What, like lessons learned from that, having been there firsthand?
Are you speaking regarding club nationals?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it was so unknown during club nationals, and I think the areas for improvement would be, now that we know how fast it spreads and that you can have it without knowing that you have it. Obviously, it would be like limiting the number of people in the clubhouse, limiting people in the locker rooms, not hugging. I think I'm guilty. I'm a guilty hugger. So just being, more aware and keeping and maintaining that 6-foot distance. And I think it's definitely going to look different in the upcoming season. So there, like Phil had said, we'll be working with the doctors to kind of make sure that those procedures are very well detailed for the clubs and for those that are hosting events.
Does the USCA foresee any on-ice changes for the athletes if provided events do happen, as far as any physical distancing or mask wearing or anything like that we should be preparing for to play?
Yeah, I think that's still in discussion as well. So we'll know more in the next week or two based on our conversations with the doctors.
And there's certainly, at different levels of the game. I know that some of the clubs have been talking about potentially one sweeper and various things like that. The potential of wearing masks on the ice has been something that's been thrown out there. I know by various groups. So we'll evaluate it at that time. If we're going to be testing, and we may be in a different set of rules if we're playing, pretrial events, just because if we'd have access to testing than we would say at a club level. So I think that just all we have to let that play out. But I mean, I know those are some of the suggestions of potential placement of people on the ice and where they stand and all those various things have been thrown out there as ideas. And I think it'll just be a matter of time before we decide at what level are those kind of rules implemented or needed. Anything else? If not, I'd like to thank everybody for coming on and thank, I see our ice maker, Sean Olson, thanks him for jumping on and listening in and having the athlete safeties to his concerns, and the U.S. Office staff that jumped on the call, and Jenny and anyone else that all the athletes, bear with us. And one thing we can promise is that we're going to get information to you as soon as we can. So like I said, feel free to reach out at any point and look for the website. Jenna and I and Jess will be working on making sure we get communications out to you weekly. If not, make sure you come back when Jess got the date in July for the next one.
Yeah, we'll see you guys July 27th. Thank you all for tuning in and for the great questions. Well, like Phil said, we'll get those answered for you here shortly, and hopefully see you in some regard on the ice next fall. So thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.